No soft landing for the Mariners as a daunting East Coast road trip begins with a matchup against the Red Hot Mets. We're going to be talking about it here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? It is Friday, May 13th, 2022, and this is the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. I am your host, Ty Gonzalez, reporter and editor over at allseahawks.com, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patno. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon, where we talk about the Mariners even more and also get into some non-baseball talk twice a week. Visit patreon.com/control the zone for more information on that if you are interested and want more of us. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you listen to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. So the Mariners are heading to New York. And before we hop into what's going down in this series, we should make it clear that we are actually recording this on Thursday, right after we recorded Thursday's episode. So there might be some roster moves that we, at the time of this recording, do not know about. But we are going to try our best to preview this series. We're going to be talking about some of the pitching matchups and George Kirby specifically. We're also going to talk about Kyle Lewis some. But tonight's game, when you're watching this tonight, Max Scherzer versus Marco Gonzalez.
Wins.
Of course. We've been saying it all week that, of course, that what the Mariners would do after this really, really crappy stretch that they've been on, they're going to go into New York and drop like 7 on Max Scherzer, because why not? That's just, I think that's the peak of chaos ball. But let's dial it back a little bit here. Objectively speaking, Colby, do the Mariners even have a shot of getting a hit off of Scherzer tonight?
Sure, they've had pretty good BABIP luck the last few days. I mean, should in theory continue, but yeah, that's kind of goal one, right? Like, forget winning, forget scoring a run, forget even getting a hit. Can we at least draw a walk or a hit by pitch, just to kind of get that out of the way right away?
Please don't get perfected. Please do not get perfected.
No hitters don't matter anymore, so please don't get perfected. You're the Seattle Mariners. You have a legacy to protect. Felix Hernandez, his legacy of having thrown the last perfect game in Major League history. Lean into one. I don't care. Just let's try to get that done by the third, like first time through the lineup, so we don't have to have that hanging over our head. Yeah, I mean, obviously they have a shot. Baseball is baseball. The Mariners somehow put up 4 runs against Aaron Nola, who had his very good stuff working for him. And I mean, there's a ton of luck involved in that and a ton of fortunate bounces, but hey, they still did it. Like it's not like it didn't happen. And we've seen the Mariners, in the past, they put up 5 runs on Shane Bieber. Like they can do this, and the lineup is better than it's playing right now. It's hard to believe with what we've seen over the last 2 weeks that this lineup is going to do much of anything against Max Scherzer, who's still, arguably the top 3 pitcher in Major League Baseball right now. But again, you never know. Marco can keep it close. It only takes one mistake, man, as evidenced by Logan Gilbert last night, who was great for, basically all but 4 batters in the entire game. He lost 4-2. So sometimes it's all it takes, and it happens a lot. And even the best pitchers will give up some hard contact and have the ball bounce against them and have a rough outing. So it's definitely possible. Is it likely? No.
No, not whatsoever.
No. But of course it's possible. I mean, it's baseball. Anything can happen.
Now, to be fair, the Mets offensively have struggled against lefties this year, only a 90 WRC plus. So never know. And maybe that bodes well for Robbie Ray, who's going on Sunday as well. Going to see him against Carlos Carrasco. That's probably the most favorable matchup for the Mariners in this whole series, because we got George Kirby going up against Chris Bassitt on Saturday, which, who knows how that'll go. We'll talk about that later on in the show, though. But yeah, so there is some hope that maybe Marco could fare pretty well against this team. Obviously, it's been a pretty up and down year for Marco thus far. Same goes for Robbie Ray as well. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go into this series completely expecting to get swept, but there is a pretty good chance that might happen because the Mets are playing really good ball right now. They haven't disappointed. They haven't let down like some expected because, of course they are the Mets, even after the offseason that they had. But they're, at the time of this recording, they're 22-11, but Thursday night they are playing. So that could be 23-11. That could be 22-12. Who knows? But they are at the top of the NL East. So
I believe they just won. So
okay, so they're going to be 23-11.
I believe they just beat the Nationals 4-1. Interesting note: Edwin Diaz did pitch the ninth, and he did throw 20+ pitches. So maybe that makes him probably not unavailable for Friday night's game, but maybe Saturday. So just something to keep in mind there. And again, we don't. It's also worth noting that it's funny. The Mets' batted ball data suggests that their offense shouldn't be scoring as many runs as they have been. So maybe that's some regression to a mean there is coming. But yeah, Marco's going to have to be pretty sharp. It's interesting. I wouldn't say that this lineup is like unbelievably stacked. Like it's not like there's like 3 elite hitters in it, but from 1 through 9, it is just filled with quality hitters. So Marco's going to have to be on top of it. He's going to have that changeup working against the left, against the righties. And he's going to have to get that cutter in off the plate and get some swings on it. That's really his only shot.
Yeah. So for the Mets, Dom Smith kind of struggling right now, 192, 241. But aside from him, they're hitting pretty well. Jeff McNeil, 330, 395, 456, 151 WRC plus. Brandon Nimmo has the same exact WRC plus. He's slashing D6, 402, 439. Pete Alonso, 287, 355, 525. Francisco Lindor, kind of a slow start for him, but he still has a WRC plus of 114. That's a 238, 317, 405 slash line for him. Eduardo Escobar, 216, 326, 342. Starling Marte, in his first year with the Mets, 262, 313, 377. Mark Canha, 291, 360, 342. A lot of these guys we talked about this winter for the Mariners, and they ended up going to New York. Mark Canha, of course, Rabbit Stew. Anyone remember that fun time? The hour or the night that Mark Canha was a Seattle Mariner, and the Mariners fans' head cannon, if you will. It was yeah. A lot of these guys, Eduardo Escobar was another guy that you and I talked about quite a bit for the Mariners as well. Jeff McNeil was I would consider him a star of Fan Fiction Friday. And those episodes that we did, he showed up quite a bit in there, because there were some reports that the Mets were pretty much done with him. But he's been great for them this year. He's been absolutely fantastic after having a slow year last year. So, yeah, this is going to be a difficult team to face off against. It's not a great matchup for the Mariners. If they can just walk away from the series with one game in tow, one win in tow, I think that's pretty good success for them. And if they can somehow get 2 or somehow sweep, which, I mean, let's calm down here, folks. But like if they can somehow walk out of Citi Field with 2 wins, I mean that's massive. That would give them a significant confidence boost.
Yeah, just find a way to avoid a disaster road trip.
Yeah.
It's 10 games, right?
Yep.
10? Yeah. 10
Yeah.
games.
Yeah. It's 4 in Boston.
Right. Okay. So yeah, Boston not playing very well right now, by the way. So maybe the Mariners catch a break there, but the Mariners aren't playing well either. So yeah, just find a way to avoid the disaster 2-8 road trip. You can get 4-6 or even 5-5. Just kind of maybe you're not building momentum, but maybe you're not losing it either.
You're just staying the course. Yeah.
Right. Then that's going to be pretty big. And then the schedule does start to soften up as we get towards the end of May and then into June a little bit. So, yeah, just kind of the goal for this 10-game road trip is to avoid disaster. And hey, maybe you go 6-4 or something like that, and then you can start to feel good about yourself, and you'll still be a couple games below 500, but you'll have some momentum. You'll have gone through a very difficult stretch in your schedule, one of the hardest road trips that you're going to make this year, and have gone, 5-5 or 6-4, and you can feel pretty good about that. So just avoid the disaster trip, and a good way to do that would be to take a couple from the Mets here, and then just see what you get. But you have to avoid sweeps on this road trip, and if they do that, they should be in pretty good shape.
All right, so on Saturday, George Kirby is making his second career Major League start in a very tough environment. We're going to be talking about that in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Built Bar. Imagine dipping your finger into that plastic tub of birthday cake frosting and then opening your eyes and realizing that was only 150 calories and 16 grams of protein. That's what it's like to eat a birthday cake puff from Built. I just received my birthday cake puffs, and I have never had anything like this before. They're available right now, and we can't promise that they will be there tomorrow, so go get them today at Built.com. All Built Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. That means with Built, you can eat healthy and actually enjoy doing it. So make every day your birthday with Built's birthday cake puffs. Built has taken the delicious experience of biting into a fresh slice of birthday cake and robed it in 100% white chocolate and added sprinkles. So go to Built.com, try one for yourself, try a bunch for yourself. Use promo code LOCKED15, that's LOCKED15, to get 15% off your order. Again, that's LOCKED15 for 15% off your order at Built.com. You're listening to Locked On Mariners. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. There are recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, including myself, taking fans through the season like no other network. It is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. So George Kirby had a major league debut that no other Mariners pitcher has ever had against the Tampa Bay Rays on Sunday. Now he's looking for an encore performance against the Mets at Citi Field, which is going to be pretty difficult for all the reasons that we laid out in the first segment of this show. Colby, what are you expecting to see from Kirby in this one?
Yeah, I'm thinking the Mets are gonna be pretty aggressive on the fastball. He generated so many swings and misses against the Rays that probably shouldn't have happened, just because the fastball, again, Kirby's fastball, while it is obviously the velocity is great, it's not a pitch that has tremendous spin rates. It's not a pitch that has a great rise through the zone. It doesn't have incredible movement. It felt more like the Rays were so cognizant of the slider that he was throwing that day that they were waiting for it to break, and it didn't. And by then they were too late. So my guess is that the Mets want to come out and they want to try and hunt the fastball pretty early. So it's going to be pretty important for Kirby to go out there and establish the slider, and even throw a few more changeups. He didn't really throw the changeup that much. I think he's going to have to, particularly to guys like Lindor and McNeil and Brandon Nimmo. I think that changeup's going to be a pretty big pitch for him. So he's got a pretty good one. It's major league quality, but it's fringy. But he's going to have to use that, and then obviously he's going to have his trademark control, because you can't leave your fastball in the middle of the plate when you're, it's when all you have is velocity, really. And thankfully Kirby, his calling card is that fastball control and command. So I think the Mets are going to come out and try to hunt the fastball. I think they're going to be pretty aggressive with George Kirby. And we'll see how Kirby counterpunches, or if maybe the fastball is just better than we think it is for an unknown reason. I mean, like I said, it's not a high spin rate. It's not a high movement pitch. He doesn't have incredible extension like Logan Gilbert, but 13 whiffs on your fastball is 13 whiffs on your fastball. That's a really impressive number. So we'll see. I think the Mets are going to be pretty aggressive, which could help Kirby actually go deeper into this game, which would be nice. But I think we're going to have to see more of the breaking stuff. And I think Kirby is a smart guy. I think he understands how the league is going to start to attack his fastball, and I think he'll continue to make those adjustments along. But the first inning or two, it's probably going to be, my guess is that the Mets are going to go up there and they're going to swing at a lot of first pitches.
So let's dare to dream a little bit here. If he goes out there and he gives the Mariners 5, 6, 7 scoreless or 1 run or whatever against this lineup, how are you feeling about George Kirby?
Pretty good. I mean, to me, honestly, there's really not, I don't know how many starts in a row Kirby would need to string together for me to feel like like we definitely have a, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, a breakout star pitcher this year.
Yeah.
But I think what with Kirby is what I've settled on is that he's probably going to be on his worst nights. He's probably going to be like average Chris Flexen, and on his best nights, he could give you a number 2 type of performance. I think he's going to be a solid number 4 this year with some upside. And if he does, what he did against the Rays, or close to it, 80% of it, like 5-6 times in a row, then maybe I start thinking of him as a number 3 right away. But yeah, I feel pretty safe with what Kirby's going to do on a outing by outing basis. I don't think he's going to blow up a ton, maybe once or twice because every pitcher does. But just the fastball velocity and command that he has with that pitch makes it highly unlikely that he's going to implode, basically like Matt Brash did several times. So another good start would be great, but I'm not rushing to name him, Rookie of the Year candidate after 2 starts.
Yeah, for sure. And then on the flip side of that, they have Chris Bassitt going for the Mets, and the Mariners fared pretty well against Bassitt last year. Yeah, 250, 338, 500 was their slash line in 4 games. Bassitt had a 5.28 ERA going up against the Mariners last season, so they did pretty well.
Yeah, it was no Cole Irvin, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think that Bassitt again, curveball is going to be the big pitch there. I feel like the curveball is going to be an interesting pitch for Julio to see. He hasn't really seen a curveball. We've seen a lot of sliders, but not a ton of curveballs. So I'm kind of interested to see how that looks, how Julio is going to adjust to that. Bassett's got a good one. But it's going to be an interesting matchup for Julio this weekend. Might be the best best starting pitching he's seen in the series. Yeah. If that makes sense. Yeah. And it'll be a good challenge for him because Julio's on fire right now, and he's one of the only guys we can say that about. So I'm interested to see how he handles Bassett's curveball and the running fastball, Max Scherzer in particular.
It's almost as if someone who recommended putting Julio up in the lineup, maybe even in the first 3 slots of the lineup, was actually pretty smart and pretty ahead of his time.
Yeah, I mean, I believe that person said that it would help Jesse Winker, which, yeah, totally has. Yep.
I never said that. I said that it would
100% did.
It would limit the risk of having Jesse Winker, a struggling hitter, at the top of your lineup and giving him more at bats. I said that it would.
You're totally fine with Jesse Winker hitting 7th behind Eugenio Suarez right now.
Okay, no, I am not. I am not fine with that.
Literally what you just said, but okay. That's word for word what you said.
He should be hitting 5th at the lowest still, at minimum, but it probably should be 4th.
I still like the idea of leadoff, to be honest with you.
Even with the way that he looks right now, because it seems like now he's like pressing because of the bad luck.
He probably is. Yeah, he probably is. Part of that is I think though is that like I kind of want to get because right now the Mariners have like 4 good hitters, and I'm not going to drag this on because I know we got to get to the 3rd segment here. But like the Mariners right now have 4 good hitters, and they're all hitting 4 in a row, which makes sense. But it's like, I mean,
yeah,
you gotta break them up, but not. You know what I'm trying to explain? Like,
well, yeah,
it'd be nice you want like Adam Frazier hitting like 3rd right now or something like that.
Well, it'd be nice if you got later on in the lineup and you actually had someone that you could depend.
Yeah,
on.
Right. Be like, hey, look at that. Winker actually hit a double. Like, wow, we didn't see that coming. And then you, all right, who's gonna have a shot to drive him in? Jared Kelenic, Cal Raleigh, or Dylan Moore?
Yeah.
Right.
It would be nice.
Yeah.
I feel like a fix for that maybe would be putting JP in the leadoff spot and then having Frazier hit like 6.
But then who do you hit 2, 3, 4, 5?
France.
That's a long way down.
Yeah.
Like obviously France and Julio, and then it's like, okay, I mean Winker, I guess, and then Suarez.
Yeah, Suarez
Frazier should hit ahead of Frazier. It just you're in a tough spot.
Mostly I'm trying to break up the strikeout guys as best as possible.
Yeah, I get it, man. That being said, go trade for Ben Gamel. Problem solved.
There you go.
Problem alleviated, I should say.
Yeah. Slightly alleviated, not at all fixed.
He's solved. Like 40% better than Jared.
No. I'm not saying that about Gamel.
Liar. You've been
I'm
Gamble
just
hater.
saying that, like, even with Gamble in tow, the Mariners are still in a rough spot offensively.
Team Gamble unite. Hey,
No,
by the way, you know who the
I'm
Mariners
on
should
board.
go trade
Hey,
for?
I defended your take in the comments of one of our YouTube videos the other day, actually.
Oh, nice. Well,
Yeah.
that's because I'm smart. Only a dummy wouldn't want Ben Gamble on this team. That being said, while they're at it, go get Jake Bowers.
Just
It's time to
bring-
reunite the Bowers Rangers.
Exactly. I think that's what the Mariners are missing. I think that was the glue that held the 2021 Mariners together.
I'm just saying.
And
I'm just saying.
that's
When
what
he
we're
showed
seeing
up,
now.
Mariners
Where
started playing
is
really
he?
well.
Where is he now?
Cincinnati
I'm looking it up
still,
real
I
quick.
believe. AAA,
Is-
Cincinnati.
Oh my God, he can't make the major league roster in Cincinnati right now.
That feels like it means more about. That says more about the Reds than because like you're still rolling Jake Fraley out there over Jake Bowers right now.
Well, right now in AAA, he's slashing 146, 321, 268 with a 72 WRC plus. But again,
Better than
counterpoint, counter argument. He was the glue that held the 2021 Mariners all together. Clearly. All right. So actually, this was a good way to segue into our final topic of the day, which is Kyle Lewis. So we're going to be talking about him in just a moment because there is an update on him and actually maybe some hope that we could see him before the Mariners head home at the end of this road trip. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by BetOnline. Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sporting wagering information from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline is where the game starts. So, Jerry DiPoto hopped on 710 Seattle Sports on Thursday morning and talked about a plethora of things. We talked about some of his comments on yesterday's episode, so be sure to check that out if you haven't already. But he also talked about Kyle Lewis, who is continuing to rehab down in Tacoma, and even went as far as to say there is a chance that he could make his way back with the team before this road trip comes to an end. But he did admit that it has been a little bit of a struggle for Lewis coming off of the days that he's played in the field. So let me ask you this: when he does make it back to the major league roster, what kind of role do you envision for Kyle Lewis?
Yeah, I think again the part of the statement, obviously about playing in the field, he's kind of still struggling to bounce back from that. Not what you want to hear at all, because you really want that DH spot to remain open. But right now, there's really not a lot of better options to DH than to have as your primary DH than Kyle Lewis. I mean, Mitch Haniger's not walking through that door. So it's not ideal, but also it's not a huge deal. I still think Lewis is probably going to play in the outfield once or twice a week. But I think it's also possible that if Lewis plays in the outfield, hypothetically, right, on Saturday, it means on Sunday he's off. He's not going to DH. And then Monday he would DH a couple days, and then he'd be back in the field again. So we'll see. We're about a month or 2 months into Lewis's rehab. I know it's officially only been like 5 or 6 games, but he was playing a lot in extended. He was seeing a lot of live pitching. So the fact that he's still struggling on those days after he plays in the field, certainly not ideal. But you hope it's something that you can that he can overcome. And right now, it's not a huge deal because you can pretty easily accommodate him being your full-time DH because there are literally no better options on this roster right now.
Yeah, and this is, again, we said it on Wednesday's show. I'll say it again now. This is exactly why you should still make a trade to add to your outfield, because you should not bank on everything going right for you. And everything going right in this situation would be Kyle Lewis returning to full health and being able to contribute in the outfield. Because apparently the Mariners are not getting Mitch Haniger back until mid-July. And we talked about it on yesterday's episode, and maybe it's happened by now. Again, we're recording this on Thursday, that Jerry Kelenic should be sent down at this point. That it's probably time for that. So the Mariners are pretty weak in the outfield right now. This is exactly why we said throughout this offseason, the Mariners do not have too many outfielders. They do not whatsoever. And we're seeing that play out in full force, unfortunately. I was hoping that we would be wrong in that situation, but yeah, it's just that's the way that it's gone. And the same complaint that we had with putting so much stock into Julio succeeding, which has worked out so far for the most part, and Kelnick succeeding, which has not whatsoever. And not really reinforcing the outfield whatsoever this offseason, aside from adding Winker, who's, defensively speaking, not really an outfielder. But aside from, they need to stop banking on everything going right for them, right? That's the point of the message, really, is that it's you just can't rely on Kyle Lewis to stay healthy and to be able to give you multiple games in the outfield every single week from here on out and be able to replace Mitch Haniger properly and do all these things, because that's not the way that it's probably going to go, especially when you hear stuff like this from Jerry DiPoto. So it would make the most sense to go into the trade market and add someone, whether that's Ben Gamel, whether that, who knows, whoever it is, just add someone with some major league seasoning and some success at the plate. I think that's absolutely vital right now, because you cannot bank on Lewis being that guy for you. You can't right now. But it'll be nice to get him. Hopefully, again, Jerry said that there is a possibility that he returns to the major league roster by the end of this road trip, maybe in Boston, maybe even in Toronto, who knows. But they they just can't rely on that to be, the be all end all for them, to be the change that they need right now, to be the spark to get things going here. So see how it goes. It's just not a great time right now for the Mariners from a roster construction standpoint, and there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of stuff that we could go down here and talk about, but really at the core of it, and just talking about what's going on right now, what the facts are. The Mariners need to find ways to safeguard themselves from some of these things, and to put themselves in a better position to succeed. And hey, if they create a logjam down the road, so be it. That's a great problem to have, and that would be a much better problem to have than the problem that they currently have. And so, yeah,
right. It'll be the first time they've ever had that problem in the DiPoto era. You don't have depth until you actually have depth.
Yeah.
Warm bodies is not depth. So, Yep, I feel like somebody, a reasonably smart fellow has said that quite often over the last 4 or 5 months. So, I don't know, maybe he was onto something. Maybe they were onto something.
Yeah.
But,
exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, something has to be done there. And again, thankfully, it does still sound like Lewis is going to, or that he has a shot to be with the team on this road trip. I would still guess he joins the team when they get back home. That'd be my guess, but he should help. But again, we also need to be careful not to just expect Kyle Lewis to come in and be like the savior of the Mariners offense.
No,
he's just another, hopefully slightly above league average bat that just lengthens the lineup and pushes guys further down and gives you more options. So he should help a lot, but he is not the guy who's just going to show up and turn this team into an offensive juggernaut. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. And from a defensive standpoint too, that may create some issues in terms of getting him into the lineup and getting your best hitters into the lineup constantly. So we'll see how they make it work, and if he's going to be able to go out in the field some. But yeah, again, just at the core of it, you gotta get better from the outside at this point, it seems. But that's a discussion we'll probably have again sometime on next week's shows. But that's going to do it for our show today and for our week slate of Locked On Mariners. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Dane Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DANE, GNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every day. Now make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB. That's where Paul Francis Sullivan, and please call him Sully, brings you his unique perspective on the Major League's present and past. It's free wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. So have yourself a beautiful baseball day, day and a beautiful baseball weekend, and we'll see you on Monday. Peace.